welcome back. 72 years ago today, on August 9th, the second bomb was dropped on Japan in an attempt to end World War II. There had been 3 days in between the two bombs, with America and the Allies asking Japan to surrender. Their people were starving, their ammunitions of all sources was low. Germany had already signed the documents and that was a done deal, so they were just waiting on Japan. Please surrender, let's end this hideous war. Yesterday I had the privilege of speaking with Bob Harmon, who you're going to see here in a minute. He was a professor at Seattle University, a history professor. And he served in Germany, and he was thrilled when Germany fell, but he was anxious, as you're going to see, that he was going to be shipped to Japan then. He didn't want that. He didn't think he would survive. I've also mentioned in my article Mike, who was a professor at Northwestern in Chicago. Mike was born in Osaka, and at age 14 he'd already been in the Japanese Imperial Army for a year and a half. Mike said the bomb saved his life. Bob said the bomb saved his life. Those I speak to from World War II wanted nothing more than the end of this horrible, horrible war. This heinous war that so many were dying from. And they were all elated beyond compare that the war had finally come to an end. So, here's what Bob has to say about that.
3rd Army, Patton all the way, 80th Division all the way. Fortunately for me, getting shifted around from one unit to another is always a bad call. So I was delighted that I went overseas with a group I trained with for months before, and I was never a replacement. I was never the green guy, the new guy. We were all new guys for a while, and then in infantry fighting, you're a veteran after the first day if you're lucky. It never changes much after that. And I was lucky. I'm one of 17 men out of my company who wasn't hurt or killed. There's about 190 men, 192 or something in a World War II anti-tank company in an infantry regiment. When the war ended, we were sent down to garrison duty, mostly around Munich. A couple of other places, but Bavarian area. And then it came time to go home in the summer of 1945, and nobody thought they were ever going to go home. Nobody with my experience in the war thought they were ever going to survive it. And then came the glorious Nagasaki bomb. This article in the recent Seattle Times about the paper always excites my ire. I think I used up all my chances by May 7th of May 845. I'm never going to make it through Japan. I've always treasured the description of potential landing beach for some Marine who wrote about this. Somebody I met eventually when I was lecturing in the Marine Academy. He said, our landing was, you know, when machine guns have coverage called the beaten zone. And they can send a machine gun so that it'll fire this far, and a given 600 yards out with bullets will be this far off the ground. He said, my landing zone had so many 100 yards of absolute beaten zone. You know, he knew he had made it through, I don't know, Guadalcanal or something. He was never going to make it through Japan. So we had the same idea about, we don't care what you think about the A-bomb, we think it's great. Civilizing advance. And that's the way I felt. So there's a new world after the 9th of August, 44.
VJ Day.
My first reaction when the war ended in Germany was immediate relief, because there was so much danger of stepping on a mine inadvertently, or some German who wasn't going to give up and shoot you after the war was over. We were on our toes, and we did an awful lot of motor patrols out through the countryside, you always worry about some guy who hadn't gotten the message might take a shot at you. Every farmer had shotgun. You wondered, you know, any of these farmers mad at me? And it turned out they weren't. Well, I think the big thing was, okay, I've survived this war. Occupation duty looks pretty good. I don't want to go to Japan. So how do I avoid going to Japan? And that concerned you. And then that was taken care of when the war ended in August. But our concern for the next 8 weeks or so after the 5th or 7th of May was, I hope the hell I don't get transferred back to the States, because that means that I don't have enough points to get out of the Army yet. 57 points or something he had to have, I didn't have. Even though I had 4 campaign stars and a combat badge, but I only had 19 months overseas. We had guys who'd been overseas for 1,000 years. They wanted to go home too, and they did, rightly. So anyway, I was concerned, but then the war was over in Japan, so after that, then it was just a case of when will you go home. Yeah.
You know, the interesting thing was, I just ran into a man who served in the Pacific. And I'm going to be interviewing him later, Tom. And he told me that he didn't enter the war until he was 19. And I said, oh, well, then that means that you were in school for 2 years. And he said, no. When he graduated from high school at age 17, he was 4F, which meant he could not serve for medical reasons. He said that we didn't have any insurance back then. So what he did was he got a job. With the money from that job and help from his father, he had the surgery needed so that he was no longer 4F. And 2 years later, he went back at age 19 and he said, here I am. I am ready to serve my country. Send me. And he ended up in the Philippines. This was the attitude back then. Everyone wanted to help America. They wanted to help the world, and they wanted peace. So the end of this war was a triumph actually for the world. So we have to remember that we don't want to engage in war. We want to teach peace. Come back. I'll have more later, especially more of these interviews. And thank you.